My beloved child, there is something unusual about the silence surrounding your name right now, and if you listen carefully, you will begin to understand why this moment carries more weight than it seems at first glance. Something is happening in the background, something you cannot directly see, but it is already shaping emotions, thoughts, and decisions connected to you. Someone you love has been standing in a space filled with emotion, reflection, and hesitation. Inside that space, there are two different voices, two different ways of thinking, and two different opinions. Both of them are focused on you, yet they see you in completely different ways. It is almost as if your presence has created a quiet division in their understanding. One voice speaks with certainty, as if it has already formed a clear conclusion. The other speaks with caution, carefully measuring every word, as if afraid that one wrong assumption could change everything. Between these two voices, tension has formed. It has not reached your ears directly, but it is already influencing what will happen next in ways you do not yet realize. Do not ignore this moment, because something important is unfolding. Every second of this situation carries more meaning than it appears to carry on the surface. There are conversations happening when you are not present. In those conversations, your name does not appear casually. It appears with weight, with meaning, and with a kind of seriousness that surprises even those speaking it. It is not spoken lightly. It is not treated as something ordinary. Instead, it is discussed carefully, almost as if every person is afraid of misunderstanding what you represent. Every word is chosen with attention, and every opinion seems to reveal something deeper about how they perceive you. One of the voices believes there is something rare about you, something that is not easy to explain, but also not easy to ignore. This person notices details that others often miss. They notice the way you carry yourself with quiet strength, even when life becomes heavy. They notice how you continue moving forward, even after disappointment tries to slow you down. They notice how your presence stays in people's minds long after you leave a room, as if something about you remains behind. But the other voice does not see things in the same way. This second perspective is not coming from dislike, but from concern. There is a fear in it, a belief that getting close to you might change things too quickly. They feel that emotions around you can deepen faster than expected, and once that happens, decisions become harder to control or reverse. They believe that once your name enters someone's heart fully, it creates a kind of emotional shift that cannot easily be undone. That is why their concern grows stronger the more they talk. What began as a simple observation has turned into a serious discussion, shaped by memory, experience, and moments that you may not even know were ever noticed. Stay with this, because something deeper is forming beneath these opinions. The person you love has not interrupted either of these voices. Instead, they have listened to both completely. Every sentence has settled inside them. Every opinion has created another question in their mind. They are hearing admiration on one side and hesitation on the other. And somewhere between these two extremes, they are trying to understand what they truly feel about you. There was a moment recently when your name came up unexpectedly, and the energy in the room changed immediately. It was subtle, but noticeable. The atmosphere shifted. A pause appeared where there was none before. A glance was exchanged that said more than words could. One of them leaned forward and expressed that your heart feels deeper than most people realize. They said that you carry emotions quietly, without needing to explain everything you feel. They mentioned that your silence is not empty, but full of meaning, and often speaks louder than spoken words. The other responded differently. They said that depth like yours can be difficult for some people to understand. Not everyone knows how to handle someone who feels so much, but does not always express it openly. And yet, even with these different interpretations, your name remained at the center of their conversation. Do not rush past this, because the truth here is becoming clearer. The person you love remembers small moments connected to you, moments they have never fully explained to anyone else. A simple sentence you once said, a look that stayed a little longer than expected, a moment when you seemed completely ordinary to everyone else, but unforgettable to them. These memories returned while those two voices were speaking, and because of that, every opinion suddenly felt heavier. Nothing was just theoretical anymore. Everything was connected to real emotion, real memory, and real internal experience. One voice believes your presence brings a sense of safety. The other believes your presence brings change. One says you remain genuine even when misunderstood. The other says people like you are not easily forgotten, and forgetting you comes with emotional complications that most people are not prepared for. And while this discussion continued, the person you love became quieter. Not because they had nothing to think about, but because too much was already happening inside them. Beneath their silence was one unspoken question. Why does your name still affect everything so deeply? Something important is building here, because this is not the end of the situation. There is another reason these opinions became so strong. Recently, something shifted in the way they see you. It may have been something small, something subtle, but it revealed more than expected. It could have been your patience, or your distance, or the way you did not chase attention when others might have tried harder. Whatever it was, it made both voices notice something important. Your value is not loud. It does not announce itself. It is something that is discovered slowly over time. And once it is discovered, it becomes very difficult to ignore or forget. That is why one of them became firm and said that losing connection with you would be a mistake. The other responded carefully, saying that getting too close to you may bring emotions that are not easy to control or manage. Think about that carefully. Two people, both serious, both observant, both looking at the same person, yet arriving at completely different conclusions. That is not confusion. That is significance being processed from different emotional directions. Stay with this, because something deeper is still unfolding. Now the person you love has started comparing everything they hear with what they already know about you. And there is one thing they cannot deny. Every time they try to place you into something ordinary, something inside them stops that thought immediately. There is something about you that refuses to become simple in their mind. There is mystery in your timing, mystery in your silence, and mystery in the way certain truths about you only become clear after distance and reflection. That is why these two voices keep returning to the same topic again and again. One believes you are misunderstood by people who only see the surface. The other believes that anyone who gets close enough will eventually realize your emotional impact is far stronger than expected. Because of these two perspectives, the person you love has started remembering things they once dismissed. Small details now feel important. Moments that once seemed normal now feel meaningful in hindsight. Then something happened that changed everything. During the conversation, one of the friends asked a very direct question. If this person means so little, then why do you become silent every time their name is mentioned? There was no immediate answer, only silence. But that silence itself became more powerful than any explanation. It revealed something that words were not ready to express. In that moment, the discussion stopped being only about opinions. It became about something deeper, something that had been hidden beneath hesitation for a long time. The person you love looked away, but inside them, memories were already speaking louder than anything happening outside. Certain moments returned. Certain feelings became impossible to ignore. And both voices understood something without needing it explained. There is more inside that heart than has been openly admitted. That is why your name has not left their thoughts. That is why the opinions around you continue to grow stronger. And that is why what happens next may carry even more meaning than anything that has already been said. Because sometimes, two different perspectives do not create confusion. They reveal truth. They expose what someone has been trying hardest not to admit to themselves. Stay ready, because what follows after silence often carries more meaning than words ever could. And after that silence, something even more revealing happened. The person you love did not defend you. They did not explain you away. They did not change the subject as people usually do when something carries no importance. Instead, they paused. A long pause. A meaningful pause. A pause that stretched far beyond what was comfortable. And in that pause, both voices understood something clearly. They had touched something real. Something deeper than casual thought. Something that had been quietly existing inside the heart long before anyone tried to speak about it. One of the friends leaned in again and spoke with quiet certainty. They said that your presence carries a kind of emotional memory that does not fade easily. Even when time passes and distractions appear, certain people continue to return in thought without explanation. And your name, for reasons not fully understood, is one of those names. The other voice responded differently. They said your quiet nature causes people to underestimate how deeply you affect situations and emotions. You do not need to speak loudly for your presence to be felt. Sometimes, your absence is what becomes the loudest thing in the room. And that is what makes you unforgettable in ways people do not immediately understand. A memory then surfaced during their conversation, something small, something almost forgotten. A simple moment involving you, a sentence spoken calmly, a reaction given without performance. A moment of sincerity so natural that it left a lasting impression without intention. What once felt ordinary now returned as evidence, proof that there is more to you than what is seen at first glance. And with that realization, both opinions became stronger again, but for different reasons. One said your heart appears loyal even in uncertainty. The other said, loyalty like yours creates deep emotional attachment because it is rare, and people do not always know how to respond to it. The person you love listened quietly, and something shifted inside them. Instead of resisting these ideas, they began to quietly accept parts of them, even the parts they had never said out loud before. Then your name appeared again. But this time, the tone changed. It was not casual anymore. It was serious, focused, emotional in a restrained way. One of them asked if they had noticed how differently they speak when your name comes up compared to anyone else. That question landed deeply because it was impossible to deny. Even small details about you receive unusual attention. Ordinary moments become meaningful later, and that is exactly why your presence has created such strong reactions around them. One voice believes this connection should be understood rather than ignored. The other believes it may already be impossible to ignore. And now, the person you love understands something important. Both voices may be seeing different pieces of the same truth. Stay with this, because something is still rising beneath the surface. Recently, you were mentioned again unexpectedly in another moment, and once again, the reaction was immediate. No warning, no preparation, just a shift in emotion that could not be controlled or hidden. And what comes next may reveal even more than everything before it. Yet your name created that same pause again, the kind of pause people cannot fake. That pause said more than words could explain, because when someone means little, the heart stays normal. But when someone means more, silence becomes noticeable. That silence happened again, and both friends noticed it immediately. They started watching carefully, because they understood that something about you keeps reaching places that logic alone cannot fully explain. One of them said, "This must mean your importance is growing," while the other said, "It feels like emotions are already further along than anyone wants to admit." They even warned not to ignore it, saying something big feels close. The strongest moment came when one of them quietly asked why the expression always changes every time the future is mentioned with that person, if there is really nothing special there. No quick answer came, only thought, only reflection, only that same silence that keeps revealing more than words. And in that silence, memories came back again. Moments where your kindness stood out. moments where your patience became visible, moments where your absence felt longer than expected. This is why the opinions remain strong. This is why your name now carries weight. And this is why the person you love has started questioning what they once tried so hard to keep simple. Sometimes, two outside voices do not create confusion. They only reveal what the heart has already been quietly saying for a long time. They moved through ordinary conversations and ordinary tasks, but nothing stayed strong enough to silence what had already been awakened. Once a thought reaches the heart at the right moment, normal distractions lose their power. And what kept returning was not random at all. Do not skip because something important is building here. The conversation has not ended. It has only become more intense, because now every new moment involving you is being noticed more carefully than before. Every small sign matters. Every tone matters. Every memory matters. One of those friends even said a moment is coming where what has been hidden will become difficult to hide any longer. Not because someone forces it, but because truth becomes stronger than hesitation. And when that moment arrives, the person you love may finally understand why two different opinions about you have both remained impossible to ignore. Something unexpected is happening too, because those two opinions are now shaping how your name is heard, even when you are not present. Your name is no longer heard as something ordinary. Every mention now carries weight, as if it arrives with a hidden meaning waiting to be understood. Do not skip because something big is waiting for you. One of the friends recently brought your name back into the conversation without any plan to talk about it. That alone felt unusual. Out of many topics, your name returned naturally, almost as if unfinished thoughts refused to stay silent. One friend said there is something rare about people who leave calm behind, even after they leave a room, and that you are exactly that kind of person. Your presence does not end when you walk away. It stays. It lingers longer than expected in memory. The other friend responded more carefully, saying what makes you different is not only what you show, but what people discover later. Your strongest qualities are often not visible at first, and that is why opinions about you grow stronger with time instead of fading. The person you love listened without interrupting, only paying attention. Do not skip, because the next part changes everything again. A very small moment was mentioned, something almost forgotten. A time when you reacted with sincerity while others expected something different. At the time it looked simple, but now both friends see it as important proof. One said it shows your heart speaks honestly, even when you explain very little. The other said that kind of honesty creates trust without asking for attention. And suddenly, your image became stronger in the conversation than before. The person you love remembered that same moment clearly, and that memory brought silence again. Stay till the end because something big is waiting for you. After that silence, one friend asked why every conversation about you becomes deeper than expected. No answer came quickly, because some answers cannot be spoken without revealing too much. The person you love looked thoughtful, almost as if trying to protect something private. And both friends already understood that your name had entered a place where emotions can no longer pretend to be neutral. One friend believes you represent peace that is hard to find. The other believes that once peace like that is felt, it becomes unforgettable. Both ideas now exist in the same mind, growing stronger every day. Do not skip because something is moving closer to the surface. Even a small mention of you now changes attention. A memory of you interrupts thought. A simple detail connected to you becomes something worth revisiting later. These are no longer random moments. They are signs that your place has become stronger than expected. One friend said, "There is a reason you stay in thoughts, even when life is busy with other things." That line was not answered with words. It was answered with silence. A deeper silence than before. And the cautious friend, who once hesitated the most, admitted that your presence might be the reason certain emotions have become harder to explain recently. That changed everything, because now both voices were pointing toward the same truth. One sees your value clearly, the other sees your emotional effect clearly. And together, those two views leave very little space for pretending your name does not matter. The person you love understands this more than they say. What makes everything stronger is that your name no longer arrives alone. It arrives with memory, feeling, and reflection. Every mention brings back something connected to you. A look, a tone, a moment. And one friend said that when someone keeps returning in thought like this, it usually means the heart noticed something important long before the mind accepted it. That thought was not argued against, because deep inside it already felt true. Now both friends are watching carefully, not to interfere, but because they sense something is approaching. Something hidden may not stay hidden much longer. They know something is building slowly. They know your name now carries more meaning than before. And the person you love knows it too. That is why your name keeps returning. That is why silence keeps appearing. And that is why the next chapter may finally explain why two strong opinions about you became impossible to ignore at the same time. At this point, even small details connected to you feel impossible to overlook, because those two voices that once felt separate are now moving toward the same conclusion. Your presence has become more significant than anyone expected. Do not skip because something important is coming. The person you love recently heard your name in an ordinary moment, but the reaction was not ordinary at all. It was a small pause, a quiet look, a silence that arrived too naturally to be accidental. And that silence became the strongest answer so far. One friend said, "Some people do not need attention because their meaning grows naturally over time, and that you have reached that point. Without trying, without forcing anything, you have become someone whose name now carries emotional weight." The other friend, who once stayed cautious, now admits that your calm presence might be exactly why your influence lasts so long. People remember intensity quickly, but forget it, while gentle presence that feels real tends to stay. A conversation that should have ended quickly continued because your name kept returning. One memory led to another. One detail opened another thought. It felt like unfinished feelings connected to you had been waiting for the right moment to rise. One friend remembered your natural ability to build trust. The other remembered how even simple words from you stay in memory longer than expected. Then both became silent at the same time, realizing they were no longer just describing you, but describing the effect you create. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something big is waiting for you. Then the person you love spoke softly and said that sometimes they do think about why this person stays in their mind longer than others. That single sentence gave both friends the answer they were waiting for. Now there were words, not just silence, and those words carried more truth than anything said before. One friend said, "This explains every reaction they noticed." The other simply agreed, because even caution had nothing left to argue. Your name had already reached a place where honesty appears on its own. The voice was calm, not confused, more like someone slowly accepting something that has been true for a long time. The two friends understood that they were not creating feelings. They were only revealing what had already been growing quietly. One believes your sincerity built trust. The other believes your consistency created something deeper than simple interest. Every time your qualities are discussed, new details appear. Your patience, your restraint, the way you do not rush to prove yourself, the way your energy stays steady even when situations change. These look simple, but together they create something powerful. One of them finally said, "This is not accidental." That sentence stayed in the air because everyone understood it immediately. The person you love did not deny it. Silence returned, but now it felt calm instead of uncertain. A new thought now exists. If your name continues carrying this meaning, maybe the future cannot stay distant forever. Maybe the reason two opinions formed around you is because your place has already become too important to ignore. One friend believes a direct moment is coming, where feelings will no longer stay behind silence. The other believes that when it happens, it will feel natural, because everything has been building slowly and honestly. And the person you love no longer looks surprised by that idea, because after all the opinions, pauses, and memories, one truth is clear. Your name has become part of a deeper conversation that does not disappear. That is why it keeps returning. That is why it matters. And that is why what started as two strong opinions may soon become something even more meaningful than anyone first expected.